Australia rises as a vast southern continent sculpted by time, ocean, and the raw forces of nature, where red deserts collide with tropical reefs and modern cities stretch along coastlines warmed by relentless sunlight. At dawn, golden light spills across the outback and reveals endless plains of ochre soil, scattered spinifex, and weathered rock formations that appear as monuments left behind by an ancient world. Kangaroos bound between sparse shrubs while emus stride across dirt tracks that disappear into shimmering horizons. Birdsong echoes in the crisp air and dust rises from the hooves of cattle as ranchers guide their herds through land that has tested human endurance for generations. Beneath the stillness lies an indigenous story older than recorded history, embedded in rock art, sacred sites, and ancestral songlines that connect rivers, mountains, and deserts across thousands of kilometers. When evening descends on the outback, the sky becomes a dome of stars so bright that the Milky Way resembles a luminous ribbon stretched across the darkness, and campfires flicker as travelers gaze upward in silence, humbled by the scale of the land around them. Far from the desert interior, the Pacific forms a glittering backdrop to Sydney, a city defined by curves of white sand, coastal cliffs, and an iconic harbour that sparkles beneath the arches of a steel bridge. Ferries glide between wharves as office workers, tourists, and surfers share the rhythm of the waterfront. The Sydney Opera House rises with shell-like geometry, its tiles reflecting sunlight and evening spotlights in equal measure as orchestras rehearse within. Bondi and Manly beaches fill with swimmers, lifeguards, and joggers tracing the shorelines while paragliders hover along sandstone cliffs. Food stalls sell grilled seafood and fresh tropical fruit, and open-air markets distribute handmade crafts beneath fluttering canopies. Cyclists weave through parks dotted with eucalyptus trees and cockatoos screech overhead. By night, the harbour transforms into a theatre of lights reflecting off dark waves. Restaurants serve modern Australian cuisine infused with Asian and Mediterranean influences, and the city hums with understated confidence. Melbourne offers a contrasting atmosphere, where narrow laneways wind between restored arcades and graffiti-covered alley walls. The scent of roasted coffee drifts from cafes, and trams slide along boulevards lined with historic terraces and glass towers. Art galleries showcase contemporary installations while bookstores, jazz bars, roasting houses, microbreweries, and creative studios populate neighborhoods shaped by migration from Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. Local markets overflow with produce from Victoria's fertile countryside, and stadiums draw crowds for cricket, football, tennis, and international events that fuel lively debate in pubs and living rooms alike. Rain clouds gather over Port Phillip Bay before parting to reveal streaks of amber light reflected on the water, reminding residents why the city is cherished in both winter and summer. Evenings are filled with festivals celebrating film, music, food, and design, giving Melbourne a cultural rhythm that never truly pauses. Travelling north brings visitors to Brisbane, a warm river city where bridges arc across winding waterways and palm trees sway beneath subtropical skies. Boardwalks stretch along the riverbanks as cyclists, skateboarders, and families move between gardens, museums, and open-air swimming lagoons overlooking the skyline. To the south, the Gold Coast dazzles with high-rise towers, golden beaches, and rolling surf breaks that attract professionals and beginners alike. Theme parks, waterfront markets, canals, and rooftop lounges shape a resort-like lifestyle, while the hinterland shelters rainforests, waterfalls, glowworm caves, and mountaintop lookouts that offer sweeping views toward the Pacific. Further up the coast, the Sunshine Coast provides a calmer ambience, where surfers paddle out at sunrise and cafes serve acai bowls and tropical fruit juices to beachgoers still brushing sand from their feet. Inland, pineapple farms and national parks create scenic drives past volcanic remnants and green valleys home to exotic birds and wild koalas. As the continent stretches toward the Tropic of Capricorn and beyond, Queensland transforms into a realm of mangroves, monsoon forests, and coral seas. The Great Barrier Reef forms a marine labyrinth teeming with bright fish, turtles, manta rays, dolphins, and occasionally curious reef sharks. Tour boats depart from Cairns and Port Douglas, carrying divers who descend into blue depths among coral towers and swaying sea plants as sunlight filters in shimmering beams. Above the waterline, tropical islands ringed with white sand invite day trippers, sailors, and honeymooners seeking clear lagoons and warm breezes. Inland, the Daintree rainforest, one of the oldest surviving rainforests on Earth, cloaks mountains and valleys in thick foliage. Cassowaries patrol the undergrowth, crocodiles lie motionless along riverbanks, and scientists study ecosystems shaped by ancient evolution. Drive north and the landscape transitions into dusty savannas, sparse communities, and cattle stations that stretch for hundreds of kilometers toward the Gulf of Carpentaria. Across the Timor Sea lies the Northern Territory, where deserts meet rock escarpments and wetlands teem with birdlife. Darwin brings together tropical weather, open-air markets, Asian cuisine, Aboriginal art, and sunsets over a horizon unbroken by mountains. During the wet season, monsoon storms drench the land with thunderous intensity, feeding wetlands where crocodiles hunt beneath murky waters and jabiroos stalk through reeds. Kakadu National Park unfolds with waterfalls, billabongs, sandstone plateaus, and rock galleries displaying ancient art that narrates stories of creation, hunting, and spiritual connection to land. Further south, the desert reclaims territory as Uluru rises from a flat plain in monumental silence. At sunrise, its surface shifts from violet to crimson as visitors gather at designated viewpoints and guides explain traditional custodianship and ecological significance. Nearby, Kata Tjuta forms domes of red stone, with walking trails passing through wind-sculpted valleys and dry creek beds lined with desert oaks. To the west, Western Australia stretches across vast distances, reaching the shores of the Indian Ocean. Perth stands as a modern coastal city where parks, outdoor restaurants, and white sand beaches benefit from Mediterranean-style climate and clear skies. Sailboats dot the Swan River, and ferries carry passengers to Fremantle, a historic port filled with markets, breweries, and maritime heritage. Offshore, Rottnest Island invites cyclists to explore salt lakes, rocky coves, and beaches where quokkas roam freely and visitors snorkel in shallow reefs. Southward, fertile valleys produce wines enjoyed in cellar doors accompanied by local cheese, olives, chocolate, and seafood. Further north, the coastline transforms into a corridor of rugged cliffs, crimson dunes, and remote beaches visited by campervans and off-road vehicles. Ningaloo Reef allows swimmers to encounter whale sharks, manta rays, and turtles without the need for deep-sea excursions, and humpback whales migrate along the coast in winter as photographers capture breaches under cloudless skies. Separated by the Bay Strait, Tasmania feels like a world of its own, where glaciated mountains, alpine lakes, temperate rainforests, and wild coastlines forge a dramatic backdrop for towns steeped in maritime history. Hobart clings to the foothills of Mount Wellington, its harbour filled with fishing boats and yachts. Markets distribute berries, seafood, cheeses, and handmade crafts while museums and art festivals draw visitors from around the globe. Inland, Cradle Mountain rises above button grass plains and mirrored lakes where hikers trek through pristine wilderness. Historic sites reveal stories of convict settlements, shipwrecks, and early exploration, and small farms produce cider, wine, honey, and truffles that highlight the island's fertile soils and crisp climate. Australia's food culture continues to evolve, reflecting both its climate and multicultural society. Fresh seafood arrives from ocean trawlers, tropical fruits ripen in northern orchards, and native ingredients such as finger lime, macadamia, wattle seed, and lemon myrtle appear on menus that fuse European techniques with Asian flavors. Bakeries sell pastries infused with seasonal fruits, fish markets serve oysters and prawns beside the water, and weekend barbecues gather friends around grills piled with steaks, sausages, and vegetables. Coffee roasters pride themselves on exacting standards, and vineyards produce wines that pair with coastal dining and fine restaurants showcasing regional specialties. Transportation networks knit this vast nation together with airports linking distant cities, highways stretching through farmland and desert, suburban trains shuttling commuters to work, and ferries navigating busy harbors. Cyclists roam dedicated lanes, pedestrians stroll along waterfronts, and road trippers cross state borders with caravans and surfboards strapped to their vehicles. Sports serve as a powerful cultural force, filling stadiums, beaches, and parks with crowds cheering for cricket, rugby, football, tennis, and surfing. Music festivals gather thousands beneath open skies, and cultural celebrations honor indigenous heritage, migrant communities, and artistic innovation. Australia stands as a continent of contrasts, where ancient landscapes coexist with modern cities, where coral reefs neighbor dense rainforests, and where the spirit of exploration remains inseparable from daily life. From its wildlife-filled bushlands to its glittering coastlines, from its windswept deserts to its culinary festivals, this southern land invites travelers into a story that continues to evolve, shaped by nature, shaped by time, and shaped by people who call this extraordinary continent home. Thanks for watching and see you in next video. Bye.